Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, 3 new confirmed COVID-19 cases as Prime Minister Menes takes on the temporary role as Minister of Health. A scary moment for a Spanish Welsh motorist as a bridge collapses. Plus, a mother of 6 grateful for assistance.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thank you for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. The Ministry of Health has confirmed 3 additional COVID-19 cases, pushing the total number to 92. The cases are a 36-year-old man of New Providence, as well as a 26-year-old and a 54-year-old woman, both of New Providence. All of the 3 new cases are in home isolation. There are 55 active cases, while 8 people remain in hospital. 11 people have died locally, with 1,500 tests completed. Well, following 1 day of speculation, Cabinet Office announced last night that Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis will temporarily assume responsibility for the portfolio of health. It follows the resignation of Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands and the Prime Minister's acceptance of his resignation, a move that surprised many.
The decisions are made on the spot. I take full responsibility for it.
It's the acceptance of a wrong that left the country with a temporary Minister of Health amid a global health crisis. The Cabinet Office announced last night that the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, Prime Minister, will temporarily assume responsibility for the portfolio of health, effective immediately. On his first day in that capacity, Minnis met with health officials at the Ministry of Health today. It came 1 day after Minnis accepted Sands' resignation over the controversial decision to allow 6 Americans to disembark following a donation of 2,500 test swabs. Minnis called it a breach of protocol. But Sands learned of their interest in making the donation from former Tourism Minister Obi Wilcombe, who today expressed disappointment with the turn of events. He said the matter was never meant to be public.
No further comment on this matter. It was a goodwill gesture, was intended to be a confidential goodwill gesture.
That's it. It wasn't meant to be made public, obviously.
No, I said it was intended to be a confidential goodwill gesture in an effort to save lives. That's it.
Despite his wish for the matter to remain confidential, things have now escalated to the point where one cabinet minister has resigned, and there are calls for more senior public officials to be held accountable. Our News understands Minnis and Sands met yesterday evening, but nothing tangible came out of it. Opposition leader Philip Davis has called on Attorney General Carl Bethel to look into whether the law was broken, adding he doesn't believe Sands acted alone. Well, Bethel said he's not interested in anything, Davis says.
I don't intend to engage in a back and forth with the leader of the opposition. I believe that the leader of the opposition wants to play some politics. I'm not interested in playing politics.
Bethel asserted that with the country facing a financial crisis that will last beyond the health crisis, Davis's focus should be elsewhere.
We as Bahamians need to stop this pettiness and deal with the real challenges that face and confront us as a people, because they go directly to the sustainability of life as we know it in this country. And that is all that I would have to say to Mr. Philip Davis and the BLP. Thank you.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is preparing to bring 190 Bahamians to New Providence in Grand Bahama on Friday, during the first phase of its strategy to bring hundreds of Bahamians and residents back to the Bahamas. The ministry said in a statement that hundreds of Bahamians and residents stuck outside the country have been registered through Bahamian embassies and consulate offices. The majority of them are said to be in South Florida. In the first phase, Bahamas Air will transport the first group of 190 people who have tested negative for COVID-19 and have agreed to adhere to a strict regime required by the Ministry of Health. Government facilities will be provided for quarantine. The ministry said though those people have tested negative, protocols have been put in place to prevent the spread of the virus. Officials have advised Bahamians outside of South Florida that the repatriation exercises will be conducted in a phased and orderly manner, depending on registration data received from the embassies and consulates. The ministry plans to create a web page that will support the online repatriation registration process. A pretty scary moment for a Spanish Welsh motorist today when the bridge connecting the tiny island to Russell Island collapsed. No one was injured during the incident. Cell phone footage captured concerned residents crowding the area today. Videos show a truck partially submerged in water with a golf cart at the other end.
Coming on, don't know where it is. I'm standing on the beach down at the park, Spanish Wells, Bahamas.
Crack up the bridge, all rusty up. Cement truck, kaboom.
Senator Clay Sweeting, who is a resident of Russell Island, released a statement saying the bridge has been a matter of concern for some time now. He added that the water main attached to the bridge to service the community of Russell Island was also damaged. A contract was signed for a replacement last July. We reached out to Works Minister Desmond Bannister for comment, but our calls were not returned up to airtime. Well, Attorney General Carl Bethel responding to international reports that the European Union intends to blacklist the Bahamas. Bethel said the Bahamas regrets the apparent decision and labeled the move a disproportionate exercise of power. Georgia Bain reports.
Following the revelation that the EU Commission intends to add the Bahamas to its blacklist, Attorney General Carl Bethel doubling down that the necessary communications must take place, as the Bahamas has already elevated itself to the necessary requirements.
Countries and regional blocs will often act in what they perceive to be their economic interest. There's a difference, though, between protecting your legitimate economic interests and taking a hostile action against a friendly state.
According to international news agency Reuters, the European Union's European Commission is set to blacklist the Bahamas again, placing the country on a list of countries that pose significant threats to the financial systems of the Union. However, the Attorney General said that the country intends to launch an aggressive response and insisted that it would be disproportionate to blacklist the Bahamas, as the country has been approved to begin the exit process from the Financial Action Task Force Grey List, a process that was interrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic.
From our investigations, there have been some reshuffling of portfolios among the various directorates of the European Commission. And there is an effort to fully create and staff and give substance to a particular directorate aimed at creating a unified banking system and unified regulation in Europe.
Bethel said that the Commission committed itself to informing countries of the intention to place them on any list. However, that did not happen. He pledged to launch an extensive inquiry into the matter.
The Bahamas is in the midst of an exiting process that was interrupted by COVID-19, affecting not only our own country, but the ability of members of the on-site visiting team to leave their own jurisdictions and come to another jurisdiction in order to perform the on-site.
Bethel added the Bahamas has shown good faith and has made stellar progress in continuing to enhance its capabilities to defend the global financial system. He said to blacklist the Bahamas would be a disproportionate exercise of power.
Any proposed blacklisting of the Bahamas would be a disproportionate exercise of power by the authorities in Europe, and we are asking them for a more measured approach towards this issue, and one that is reflective of the dialogue that we feel the Bahamas is legitimately entitled to expect to be extended to a country that has made the progress that we have made.
Reporting for our News, I'm Georgia Bain.
An altercation between three men turned deadly last night after one of the men was stabbed to death. This incident has left the victim's family members shaken. Bertha McDermott reports.
Caring and kind-hearted is how family members and friends describe Jeffrey Fowler, who was stabbed to death on McQuay Street off Nassau Street Tuesday evening. Fowler's cousin, Charlotte Williams, said the family was shocked when they received word of his death, as he always kept to himself. She said she understands her cousin was ganged upon.
From work home, he used to work for the ministry as a janitor. He'd ride his bike, whatever, even if they put him to whatever schools they put him to, he'd ride his bicycle to and from work. Take care of his daughter. He's a family man. Never used to bother.
Residents of the area were all visibly outraged over the matter. According to Police Press Liaison Officer Chief Superintendent Shanta Knowles, police are following several leads.
Shortly after 5 p.m. today, 3 men were through this corner. This is McQuay Street off Nassau Street, when they were involved in an altercation. One of them, as a result of that altercation, was stabbed. He was examined by medical professionals on this scene and was pronounced dead. We are following some leads in this matter, and we do believe that we will quickly solve this incident.
Still, Williams say this loss will be difficult for the family to cope with, especially considering that he had a teenage daughter depending on him.
It's going to be hard. It's really going to be hard. You can understand if someone was a troublemaker and they deserve what they get, because they say you live by the sword, you die by the sword. But if a person didn't live by the sword and die by the sword, you have a problem with that. He ain't even a fighting person. I probably could have handled them 3 guys for him, because he don't fight. I'm more of a little fighter than he was. I could tell you the type of person he was. You understand? He was humble.
Williams said Fowler is in his early 40s. Police suspect his assailants are in their 20s. Knowles also encouraged members of the public to find healthier ways to resolve their differences. Fowler was the second person murdered on New Providence yesterday. A 17-year-old boy was shot dead in Fox Hill Tuesday morning. According to Knowles, there is nothing to suggest the matters were related.
Police are appealing to anyone with information into this latest incident to contact them. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
All right, thanks, Berthany. Still to come, a struggling mother of 6 grateful for the outpouring of support, plus what it's like to be a doctor on the front line of the COVID-19 fight. Stay tuned. On the heels of Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands' resignation, the president of the Consultant Physician Staff Association says she believes he did the honorable thing. Jillian Gray has more.
President of the Consultant Physician Staff Association, Dr. Sabrika Pinder-Butler, said she respects the decision that Dr. Dwayne Sands made to resign. However, they're hoping that the strides made under his tenure continue.
Anyone who's stepping into that role now will be tasked with becoming abreast with all of those things, and certainly we hope that the things that were already in place will continue. We hope that the patient care will still be at its best that we can provide. We hope that that engagement with the CPSA as well as the nursing union and the BDU continues, because that's imperative.
Dr. Pinder-Butler said she believes the decision to step down was the honorable thing to do. As for the Prime Minister's announcement that he will serve temporarily as the health minister, Butler said,
We're still in the pandemic with COVID-19, and so certainly even though there may be interim delay with things that may be happening from the ministry perspective, we need those things to continue, because patient care doesn't stop. And so the Prime Minister has been a part of the COVID team, as you are aware. He's the competent authority, and he has been the Minister of Health prior as well too. So we expect that through God's guidance, which we hope that he will be continued to rely on, that he will be able to make the best decisions with the Ministry of Health's team.
The CPSA president said medical professionals are ready to partner with whomever becomes the substantive Minister of Health, adding it's important for unions to be a part of the decision-making process.
We want to partner with PHA and other ministries so that we're aware with what is happening in country. Healthcare and patient care is of utmost importance to us. So we want to ensure that patients continue to receive the high quality of care that we're prepared to provide to them. And we always reach out and ask for engagement. So we're hoping that the engagement will continue and that it will improve so that we're involved in the decision making.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
A mother of 6 who has been jobless for years says she's overwhelmed by donations from generous Bahamians. Jared Higgs has her story.
Imagine going from surviving on tea bags and bread to having enough food to help feed your neighbors.
Blessings, blessings, blessings.
Shirley Cadet, a jobless mother of 6, lives in a rundown home without electricity and plumbing. She says her lack of formal documents has made it impossible for her to find work to support her young children. However, after learning of her struggle, Bahamians quickly came to Cadet's aid.
They give clothes, they give food, water, and even money to come down to money.
Dozens of groups and individuals reached out after Cadet's story aired. She says she received about $1,000 in cash, which will go towards improving her living conditions. As for the clothes, the 34-year-old mother says they are much more than hand-me-downs.
Some of them, I received like 2 bags that had brand new clothes, what they never worn.
The donations were so plentiful that other children are able to receive.
What couldn't fit, there's other children them in the yard. So I just donate some to the family in the yard too.
Cadet was also able to help her neighbors with groceries. Her children, especially her 5 youngest sons, are overwhelmed by the support. When we caught up with them, they were indulging in sweets, to say the least.
They actually happy. You know what I mean? You know when you say children like to eat, but how the house so full of it? It's like they don't have that appetite no more because there's so much food, and they very shocked to see they have so much.
Cadet says some have offered to go beyond food, clothes, and money. They have promised to help build her a new home. That's a big promise, but the relieved mom is grateful for everything.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate everything what they do for me and my kids. May God bless them all. May God, inspire them and never lose hope.
The mother of 6 says the next step for her is to get her documents straight, and then she's going to start the job hunt. Reporting for our news, I'm Jared Higgs.
All right, thanks, Jared. Well, the coronavirus has evoked fear and anxiety among Bahamians who worry about getting infected with a disease that has killed 11 people locally and hundreds of thousands of people worldwide. But what is it like to be a doctor on the front lines of the COVID-19 fight? Jerome Sawyer finds out.
This story was brought to you by Sun Oil Limited, fueling growth for people.
When the patient comes into hospital, if we suspect that this is a patient that has an exposure event, or if this patient is showing symptoms of COVID-19, we would have to isolate that patient.
And this could mean a whole new level of anxiety that healthcare workers are now seeing. Dr. Theo Strawn is used to the daily rigors of accident and emergency as a senior house officer. These days, he's on the front lines of the COVID-19 response team.
Normally, when a patient comes into accident and emergency, they have a support system in place. They come with their family members. They're able to communicate with them. And also the way that you interact with the patient would be different. There's less of, a role of the physician in terms of comforting the patient, in terms of physically caring for the patient. But now, when the patient comes into the hospital, it's essentially there's a barrier.
Strawn admits there is heightened patient anxiety, partly because of all of the changes in hospital procedures and the physical environment. The clear separation of patients and care is reassuring to everyone.
So whenever a patient comes in, and the COVID-19 arm, we'll deal with internal medicine specialists, anesthesiologists, surgeons that would address any of their issues. And then the other patients on the floor, the main floor of accident emergency, they're dealt with. And since there's that separation and they know the patients are on the other side now, they don't really have that much of a fair concern, I must say.
And like the rest of us, doctors worry about their own high rate of infection.
This COVID-19 basically exposed the fact that physicians are also not immune to disease and also mortality, and that is a concern. So when I went and I decided to volunteer, I did so for myself, recognizing that this is an excellent learning opportunity. This is how I can help my country.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jerome Sawyer.
All right, thanks, Jerome. Still to come, those in need right up for a hot meal. Stay tuned. You're watching Our News. Welcome back. For many, a meal is becoming increasingly hard to come by as more and more people are pushed towards the poverty line thanks to the global health crisis. The Hope Center did its part to help by handing out free hot meals this morning. Jasmine Brown reports.
Those who showed up to the food drive said that meal was much needed in a time where a little means a whole lot. They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but with the COVID-19 pandemic wreaking havoc on the Bahamian economy, it is also becoming one of the most missed meals of the day. That fact has not gone unnoticed at the Hope Center, where free meals were handed out to residents looking for a hot meal to start their day.
We've been in this thing almost 7 weeks right now. Even the little small resources that some people have, they've already eaten up. And one of the things that we wanted to do was to let our light shine.
With social distancing still the order of the day, volunteers were on hand to take orders and deliver them to motorists waiting in their vehicles.
Put down your window. You ain't gotta come out. You ain't gotta come out.
There were those who drove up while others walked up. This barefoot man said he has fallen on hard times and often turns to the Hope Center for help. He said Wednesday morning was no different.
I still have the light. Still asking thank for who are support for me, you see.
Meantime, the flow of cars was steady as motorists rode up to collect some of the more than 300 meals that were prepared. Those we spoke to said they appreciated the act of goodwill.
It's a good thing they're doing because, you know, plenty of people in need now, plenty of people don't have it to eat.
I think it's very thoughtful.
Hi, Mr. Carlos, thank you. Thank you all again.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks, Jasmine. Sports is up next. Finally in news tonight, 3 young swimmers share how the pandemic has impacted their lives. Marcellus Hall reports.
With COVID-19 continuing to keep our athletes, for the most part, other than the professional ones, under wraps, we've had a chance to talk with some of our young swimmers. They're affected the most because for them, their routines have been truly disrupted. They obviously spent a lot of time in the water, now find themselves unable to do so, particularly with Carifta, of course, being canceled. We had a chance to speak with a number of them on their thoughts about COVID-19 and being at home.
The cancellation of the Carifta 2020 was a shock to me. However, I was pleased to see that the Bahamas Aquatics took the health and safety of the swim team as its first priority.
Personally, the pool closure has impacted me greatly. Me not being able to swim daily is far from normal. Knowing that all my hard work and dedication has gone down the drain, I was really looking forward to going and representing the Bahamas to the best of my abilities.
For a young swimmer like Lisa Salting, being denied the access to the pool has been really tough on her, but she's finding new ways to focus.
Okay, so maybe it's like this. Sure, Carifta and swimming are canceled, and with everything that's happening right now, I think it is training or practice. I don't mean practice like, you know, like exercising or swimming in the pool. I think it's a practice for your mind, for your resilience, for your mental toughness. So with the help of my coach, my coach sent out motivational clips and different exercises for all the swimmers to do. And I made it to a point where I decided I will compensate the hours I put in swimming, which is 2 hours, and I will put it into dryland training, which will also be 2 hours. I try to challenge myself every day with doing different exercises, watching different motivational clips, and all those things.
My coach has sent me various links on YouTube trying to create some form of training. It is very challenging.
I have to adapt to a life at home. This means using what I have at my own house to continue or maintain my athleticism.
I also have one last thing to say. Anyone who is in this situation right now, someday we will look back onto this day and we will say, I was part of that generation where we were swimmers without a pool, but still that did not stop us to become the best we could ever be. Stay safe, everyone.
And there it is. Our young swimmers continuing to persevere through it all. I'm Marcellus Hall for our news. The weather is next.
Thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Kyle Joaquin. Remember, you can catch Our News on the Go, the Ref Go Play app. Have a good Wednesday evening, Bahamas.